Thank you. Thank you. I think you've made it. You've made it pretty clear who you've come to hear. So in just a minute, I'm going to talk about my favorite subject, which is going to be what Hillary can and will do in the 8 years following January 20th. But before that, there have been a couple of things said by Donald Trump in the last few weeks that wait till you hear them, then you'll really boo. That I'd like to clarify a little bit. And these are important points that he's made, and it's important that you hear the answer on them. The first point was when he was asked about revealing his income tax returns, which every presidential candidate has done for 40 years. He said, "None of your business," which did not go over so well. And then he started giving various explanations. And one of the explanations was that he had given his financial statement to the Election Commission that listed his assets and liabilities. But believe me, as someone who's filled out financial statements and someone who's filled out an income tax return, I can tell you they are two very different animals. And you will learn a whole lot more about Donald Trump if he produces his income tax return. And so that's why I'd like to make him an offer. An offer I hope he can't refuse. Now, Donald Trump, at one point, he says various things at different times, but at one point, and he said it several times, is that he can't do it, can't release it because he's under audit. Now, I've got news for him. I'm under audit too. And I would be delighted to meet him any place, anytime between now and election. I'll bring my tax return. He could bring his tax return. Nobody's going to arrest us. It is not, there are no rules against showing your tax returns. And just let people ask us questions about the items that are on there. How many of you would be afraid to have your tax return made public? Yeah. It does not. No. You're only afraid if you got something to be afraid about. And he's not afraid because of the IRS. He's afraid because of you. So I will meet him in Omaha or Mar-a-Lago, or he can pick the place anytime between now and election. I'll bring my return, he'll bring his return. We're both under audit. And believe me, nobody's going to stop us from talking about what's on those returns. And send the word to him, if you will. Another thing he said is he says, America isn't great anymore. You know, you need him. But because America just isn't great anymore. Now, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I disagree with him violently on that subject, which I'll say a little bit about more later. But it's how he explains what he would do about that, because I'm going to quote his exact words. I'm going to read this because I want to be sure I've got it exactly right. He says, "No one knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it." Well, well, la-di-da, I mean, this is, only he can fix it. I didn't really realize we were in such grave danger. I mean, there's 325 million Americans, and if this guy leaves for Canada, it's supposed to be hopeless for the rest of us. Oh, no, he alone can fix it. Yeah, it takes some kind of nerve or something else to really have the notion that out of 325 million people, you're the only ones that can fix it. Now, I think when somebody makes a statement like that, you should look at his record when he has appealed to the American public before. Now, Donald Trump has been in a lot of businesses. He's had a lot of bankruptcies, but usually that's just involved borrowing money from the American public. But in 1995, to my knowledge, it's the only time Donald Trump went to the American people and he said, join me, I'm a winner, join me and invest in my company, Trump Hotels and Casino Resorts. It's the only time he asked the public to join, but now you got a chance to join the great man in this investment. That was in 1995. They listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and Mr. Trump, very modestly, made the ticker symbol DJT. Guess what that's for? So he names the company after himself, or he gets the ticker symbol after himself. The next 10 years, the company loses money every year, every single year. He takes out $44 million in compensation during that period. In 1995, when he offered this company, if a monkey had thrown a dart at the stock page, the monkey on average would have made 150%. But the people that believed in him, that listened to his siren song, came away losing well over 90 cents on the dollar. They got back less than a dime. And you know the history of his enterprises where he was borrowing money, where one time after another he went into bankruptcy. I've really never known another businessman that brags about his bankruptcies. And to tell you the truth, why not? I mean, it's his claim to stardom. I don't know anybody else that's had 6 bankruptcies, but there he is. Now, the final straw occurred this weekend, and you know about it. Donald Trump managed to get in front of George Stephanopoulos after Mr. and Mrs. Khan had told about their Gold Star son. Mr. Khan had offered him Mr. Trump a copy of the Constitution. And Donald Trump said this, when asked by George Stephanopoulos about, well, Mr. Khan first said, "You have sacrificed nothing and no one." Quite an accurate statement. And Trump said, "I think I've made a lot of sacrifices. I've worked very, very hard. I've created thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs, built great structures. I've had tremendous success." And George, a little overcome, said, "Those are sacrifices?" And Trump, believe it or not, said, "Oh, sure, I think they're sacrifices." Now, the young son of Mr. and Mrs. Khan died a dozen or so years ago. In that dozen of years, we've employed a lot of people. I've had fun doing it. We've made money just like Donald Trump has made. I have made no sacrifice. No member of my family has gone. No member of the Buffett family has gone to Iraq or Afghanistan. No member of the Trump family has gone to Iraq or Afghanistan. We've both done extremely well during this period, and our families haven't sacrificed anything, and Donald Trump and I haven't sacrificed anything. But how in the world can you stand up to a couple of parents who have lost a son and talked about sacrificing because you were building a bunch of buildings? I mean, that is, when I heard that, my mind went back and this goes back before most of you were born, but they went back to the McCarthy hearings. And at the time of the McCarthy hearings, at the time of the Senate McCarthy hearings with the Army, Joe Welch had a young assistant of his maligned by Senator McCarthy, and McCarthy went on and implying this guy was a communist and doing all kinds of things. And finally, Joe Welch couldn't take it anymore, and he said, and I'll quote him, "Have you no sense of decency, sir?" And I asked, Donald Trump, "Have you no sense of decency, sir?" I might add, just add one thing. McCarthy's career went straight downhill after that. Let's move on to more pleasant subjects. Unlike what Mr. Trump says, America's great. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the USA. Because 240 years ago, we started with a piece of paper. It was a blueprint for a new society, a society unlike anything the world had ever seen before. And in 1776, that blueprint started us on a path that has finally led to the next woman president. It was imperfect, but it was aspirational. Now that blueprint has done wonders for this country in terms of overall prosperity. When I was born in 1930, if my parents had seen what the world would look like in 2016, they wouldn't have believed it. The GDP per capita is 6 times what it was when I was born. That's never happened in the history of mankind. It's a miracle. And the miracle is America. And it still has all the qualities that it had in 1930 and which propelled us forward like this. So America, in terms of delivering wealth, has been incredible. In terms of distributing wealth, it has not been living up to what I consider its potential. I just described to you $56,000 of GDP per capita, and that means a family of 4 on average would have $224,000 of GDP per capita, but it hasn't worked out that way. This country, while making some people enormously wealthy, has left people behind, and those people were just as willing, probably more willing, to go to Afghanistan. They were as willing to go to Normandy 70 years ago. And in Hillary Clinton, you have somebody that cares about that. And I would venture to... Let me give you just one more statistic, and I'll get away from that, but I know how popular that is. But in the first year of the Forbes 400 back in the 1980s, the aggregate wealth of the 400 was $93 billion. You can look it up on the internet. Currently, it's $2,374 billion. That's 25 for 1. Now, everybody that's had 25 for 1 themselves, if they'd raise their hand, it hasn't happened. They told us it would trickle down, But what has happened is it's flooded upward. And That almost 2.4 trillion from 400 people in this country, they're not bad people. I know a good many of them. Like to know more, actually. But they have benefited from a system that, frankly, is tilted toward people like me and the rest of that group. I mean, it's not because they're evil, but they've taken advantage. They're the ones with the lobbyists. They're the ones that have come up with carried interest where their income is taxed at rates far lower than almost all of the people in this room. And it's going to take somebody with strength, resoluteness, brains, energy. It's going to take that to somebody to affect change. I mean, there's no question about it. It won't happen by itself. It takes guts. It is a tough job when you try and change the code on people that are making millions and millions of dollars a year in order to give a better break to the people who work just as hard, maybe harder, and take home, a few $100s a week. It's really wrong that in a country where $56,000 of GDP per person for anybody that works 40 hours a week not to be able to provide a decent living for their family. It just doesn't make any sense. And it won't cure itself. And it certainly won't be cured with Donald Trump. It's going to take Hillary Clinton. It's going to take powers of persuasion. It's going to take a mandate from the people in her election. But she's spelling out what she's going to do as contrasted to one of the other candidates. She is telling you what she is going to do about the tax code. And when that gets enacted, I'll be a little worse off, and believe me, I can take it. And you'll be better off. Now, I'd like to make a little news, and this is a surprise even to Hillary. It's very easy. There were 129 million votes cast in the last presidential election. It's very easy to think, if you're watching a TV show or the weather's a little bad or something, to think, well, my vote really doesn't count. What difference is it going to make with 129 million? Well, I've got some real news for you. It doesn't make much difference if you're a Democrat in Idaho or a Republican in California. I mean, you were in a state where the electoral vote's going to be decided by majority vote, and you're on the short side in that case. But we live in a very special place. In Nebraska and Maine, we also cast electoral votes by congressional district. And we don't have to think about 129 million popular votes throughout the country. We have to think about 538 electoral votes. And yesterday on that same George Stephanopoulos show, they had 4 people predicting how the election would come out. And Jonathan Karl of ABC News had gone state by state and came up with his notion as to who was going to carry each state and how that would cause the electoral vote to come out. And those of you who watched the show yesterday saw that he came out 269 to 269. He absolutely said that he did not try to come out that way. He just looked state by state, 269 to 269. Now there's one district in the United States I am looking at the people that can change that 269 to 270. It happened in 2008 by 3,200 or 3,325 votes. We actually gave a vote separate than the rest of Nebraska. So it's been done. It's been done. But we're going to help that process along this time. I have pledged today that on Election Day, November 8th, I will take at least 10 people to the polls who would otherwise have difficulty getting there. And when you go home tonight, you can go to a website called Drive To, that's for the 2nd Congressional District's the number 2, Drive To Vote. And if you go there, it will offer you information on 3 things: how to register, how, if you need a ride on November 8th, you may find someone who will take you. We'll take care of that. And it'll also give you the chance to volunteer to take some people, whether it's 10 or a lesser number. Today, I reserved Ollie the Trolley for November 8th. It seats 32. I'm going to be on it all day. I'm going to do selfies, whatever it takes. If it's snowing, if it's cold, my goal, and the goal of the people who've joined me on this drive to vote, my goal is to have the turnout in Douglas and Sarpy County, the 2nd District, is to have the turnout here be the highest percentage of potential voters of any district in the country. Let's Let's give America a civics lesson. How about it? Everybody in the 2nd District, yeah? And if the people in this room, if each one of you would pledge to take 10 people, that I can almost guarantee that'll be the margin of victory. So join me. You know, if you can take 20, do that. If you can only take 3 or 4, that's fine too. But get that neighbor who, you know, is watching that television program or feels it's a little cold, and shame them into coming with you to the polls. Now, just remember, Drive To Vote. Okay. Now, if you've read the Constitution, which apparently some people haven't, if you read Article 2, it deals with the presidency. Article 2 of the Constitution, look it up. That's where they describe the presidency. We wrote that Constitution. 39 men signed it. How would you ever guess? You'll find out in a minute. 39 men signed it. And in Article 2, describing the qualifications for the President of the United States, male pronouns, he, his, and him, were used 20 times. Just imagine that. And that's still in the Constitution 227 years later. He, his, and him. No hers, no she's. Well, on January 20th, we're going to elect the best president we've ever had, and somebody's going to change those pronouns.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Omaha. Thank you. Thank you, Congressional District 2. Oh, I am so delighted to be back here with so many friends and supporters and with everyone here today. And especially, I want to thank Warren Buffett for that kind and generous introduction. I've heard Warren called the Omaha Oracle. I call him my friend. He is an American original. I am honored to have his support, and I love the idea that together all of you are going to aim to have the highest percentage turnout of any congressional district in America. It's great to be here at the North High School, the magnet school. I had a chance to say hello to your principal, Jean Haynes. And I see scattered throughout the crowd both students and teachers. And I love teachers. Thank you. I also wanted to thank a former colleague of mine in the United States Senate, your former Senator Ben Nelson. I have to tell you, I've had the best week. Any of you watch the convention? I was so excited to have the opportunity for so many people who care about our country, who have contributed in many different ways, to have a chance to stand before America and to tell their stories. Because America is story after story. And what I want is to provide the opportunity and the support so that every single American can live his or her best story, can make the most of your own God-given potential. And after the convention was over, starting Friday morning, Tim Kaine and his wonderful wife, Ann, and Bill and I got on a bus and started traveling across Pennsylvania into Ohio. We visited factories, small towns, bigger cities. We met with so many hardworking people who told us their stories. And they proved every day that Donald Trump is wrong. America is not weak. I agree with Warren. This is the greatest nation on earth, and our best days are still ahead of us. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have challenges and problems. Of course we do. Right here at home and around the world. But I don't believe there is anything that Americans can't do if we make up our minds, because you know why? We are stronger together. But as Warren said, too many people haven't gotten a raise since the great crash. There's too much inequality and too little opportunity. Washington is paralyzed by special interests and big money. But don't let anyone tell you we don't have what it takes if we make up our minds to solve our problems. And don't believe anyone who tells you, I alone can fix it. When Donald Trump said that in his convention speech, I did a bit of a mental double take. I listened to that speech, 75 minutes of it, and it was like he was talking about a different country, forgetting about everyone in America who gets up every day and works together, people who make a difference every single day. He's forgetting our troops on the front lines. He's forgetting police officers and firefighters who run toward danger. He's forgetting about doctors and nurses who save lives and teachers who change lives. He's forgetting about unions who fight for working families and communities that pull together through hard times. I grew up in the Midwest. I was born in Chicago, raised outside of Chicago. My dad was a small businessman, I mean really small. It was mostly just him and occasionally my mother, my brothers, and me, and sometimes he'd hire helpers to get one of his orders out because he printed fabrics to be made into draperies, and he had a print plant with long tables. He was a very self-reliant man, but I don't think he for a minute, through his growing up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, through his service as a chief petty officer in the Navy, through his work and business or his raising our family, ever thought to himself, I alone can fix it. That's just not the way we were raised. We were raised to get together. We were raised to follow up on the extraordinary example of our founders 240 years ago in Philadelphia, who came together. You see that across Nebraska. You see people working. I've been in Omaha. I have visited projects, schools, other kinds of nonprofits and institutions where people are working together. That's what we do in America. We see a problem and we say, we'll fix it together. And that's what we're going to do when we get the White House to move us forward in the direction we need to go. Now, I know how hard the Great Recession was. It was a terrible time, the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. And people in Nebraska worked hard to come back. I think it was a terrible moment. It could have gotten even worse. I believe that a lot of difficult decisions had to be made. And we have come back from that terrible financial crisis, thanks to the hard work of Nebraskans, Americans, and President Obama. We got out of the ditch we were in. So, I think if we're going to solve the problems we have, we ought to be really clear about where we've come from. We now have 15 million new jobs that have been created in the last 7.5 years. We now have 20 million more Americans who have access to health care. We have the highest percentage ever in our history of young people walking across graduation stages to get their high school diplomas. So I know we've made progress, but I know we shouldn't be satisfied. As Americans, we always have to be asking ourselves, what can we do better? How can we make more progress? How can we help more people? We're still facing tough challenges that developed long before the recession, and they've stayed with us. The economy is not working the way it should for everyone. Starting in Iowa back in April of 2015 until the convention this week, I have met so many people who tell me, they don't expect a handout. They don't even expect, life to be easy, but they don't think it should be this hard. It shouldn't be that people feel like they're out there on their own, like no one cares about them, that they're not respected, that the dignity of their job is not something that we all support. I know a lot of people who feel that way. I bet there are some in this gymnasium who feel that way. Well, here's what I want you to know. You deserve a president who will get up every single day in the White House and do everything she can to give you the chance you deserve to have. Quickly add, as important as it is to have someone who gets what you're going through, I think it's also really important that that person tells you what her plans are for producing results. So if you saw what I said on Thursday night, let me give you the short, punchier version. And it starts by making clear we do have to rewrite the rules so that our economy works for everyone, not just those at the top. My overriding mission as president will be to do everything I can to help our country create more jobs with rising incomes. I believe anyone willing to work hard should be able to find a job that pays well, enough to support a family. So in my first 100 days, we are going to break through the gridlock in Washington and make the biggest investment in new good-paying jobs since World War II. We are going to make the boldest investment in American infrastructure since the highway system. Warren read you some of the quotes from Donald Trump. Well, he has said so many things that I profoundly, vehemently disagree with. And for the life of me, I don't know why someone runs to be president of the United States who thinks and says, we never win anymore. Our country is full of losers. Well, he could not be more wrong. We are going to fix and build the roads, the bridges, the tunnels, the ports, the airports, the water systems we need. And I want to say a particular word to any of you here from rural Nebraska. We are going to bring diverse economic development to rural communities to support our farmers and others in small towns who keep America going. And one specific way we will do that is to make sure we have an electric grid that can take and distribute energy from clean, renewable sources. In fact, I know because I've seen them in the crowd, there are a few people from Iowa here today, and your neighbor Iowa is already getting 1/3 of its electricity from clean energy, primarily wind energy. And what I love about that is they're also giving farmers extra income for hosting the turbines on their farm, and they are taking abandoned factories and actually assembling the wind turbines, putting people to work in Iowa to produce the energy for Iowa. The other thing we're going to do is finish the job of building out broadband so everybody in America, no matter where you live, has access to the internet. I don't know how we build a 21st century economy for our young people if we don't give every home and business access to high-speed internet connectivity. And I learned something from talking to some of my teacher friends. As I said, I do love teachers, and I'm going to work with you to support you. And here's what they told me. They told me that a recent survey found 70% of our teachers give homework assignments to their students that require them to use the internet. Now, that makes perfect sense. We want to have a really great opportunity for young people to understand how to be involved with and use the internet. But here's the rub. We have 5 million kids in America who don't have access to the internet in their homes. So already they're being left out and left behind. We don't have a child to waste. We need every child to be given an education to prepare them for the future. So, to me, it's real simple. If we invest in infrastructure, we're going to put millions of people to work, and we're going to lay the foundation for new jobs in the future. The second thing we're going to do is invest in American manufacturing. And here's why. A lot of people say, you know, we can't make things in America anymore, and they think about all of the jobs we've lost because of low-wage labor and other problems. Well, here's what I have seen, and I've seen it all over America. I was just in a plant in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, a wire plant called Johnstown Wire Technologies. And I was talking, and it's a plant that's been there more than 100 years. Started off as a steel plant, now it's making wire products. And I was talking to them, and I said, well, what kind of future do you think you have? And they said, boy, if we get the right support, we've got a great future. We're actually bringing jobs back from China to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. When I was your Secretary of State, I visited 112 countries, and I went to a lot of places that really want American-made products. They're the best, the most innovative. Nobody can outwork or outcompete American workers or American businesses. So what I want to do, I want to support manufacturers, large and small. And, you know, again, I hear Trump talking a big game about, I think he says, putting America first. Well, I don't know what part of America first leads him to make Trump furniture in Turkey, not Nebraska, or Trump ties in China, not Colorado, or Trump barware in Slovenia, not Ohio. He says he wants to make America great again. Well, he could start by actually making things in America again. And then just this week, we find out he's asking for permission to get visas to bring more foreign workers, which he has used consistently, to work in his country clubs, on his golf courses. And when he was asked, I think on that same interview Warren was talking about, he goes, oh, well, it's very, very hard to find people. Well, I bet together we could find thousands of people who'd like to work at a country club or on a golf course in America. We're also going to take seriously the education and training of our young people and people in mid-career. We're going to invest in STEM education, which is part of the mission here. To provide to every student in America the chance to learn computer science like you're doing here at Omaha North High School. We are going to partner with the private sector to train up to 50,000 computer science teachers over the next decade, so they're in the classroom preparing our young people. We're also going to make college tuition free for the middle class and debt-free for everybody. And we will liberate millions of people who already have student debt. It is just not fair that Donald Trump takes bankruptcy 6 times to get out from under his debts, and we won't let families and students refinance their student debt. And here's something else. I don't think we say this enough. College is crucial, but a 4-year degree should not be the only path to a good job in America. Right now, there are millions of job openings. We don't have enough machinists or welders or coders. We need more skilled people in the trades, because a lot of the people who know how to do that work are going to be retiring in the next 10 or 15 years. That's why I want to support more business and union apprenticeship initiatives, targeted higher education programs, more training. We're going to help people build a better future. And finally, we are going to support the kind of small businesses that Donald Trump has consistently stiffed. Like I said, my dad was a very small businessman. I take this really personally. I had no idea before he started running and information began coming to light what he has done to hurt people. I said in the convention, Atlantic City, New Jersey, hardworking contractors, small businesses were left holding the bag after Trump refused to pay their bills. I'm talking about painters, landscapers, plumbers, the people who installed the glass in his casino, the people who laid the marble floor in his casino. They needed the money. They did the work. They bought the supplies. And he didn't pay them, not because he couldn't, but because he wouldn't. That is just not the way you do business in America. We make good on our promises. You know, I think about my dad standing over those big bolts of fabric. You take a silk screen, you put it down, you pour paint in it, you take a squeegee, you go from one side to the other, then you lift it up and you keep going down the table. Then maybe you come back and you add another color with a different silk screen. And then finally you finish. My dad would get contracts. He would do the work. Then he'd load the fabrics into his car. He would take them to the places that had ordered them, hotels, offices, restaurants. And he expected to be paid. If one of his major customers had refused, he would have been forced to close up his business. Luckily, he never had a contract with Donald Trump. If you hire someone to do a job and they do it, you pay them. You don't go around bullying small businesses just because you can. Small businesses are the backbone of this economy, and I want to be a small business president. We're going to make it easier to get credit, to cut red tape. Too many dreams still die in the parking lots of banks in America. If you can dream it, you should be able to build it. I also will tell you exactly how I'm going to pay for everything I have proposed. If you go to my website, HillaryClinton.com, you can see it's not complicated. It's exactly what Warren said: follow the money. And I'm glad Warren is so good-humored about it, because the super rich, Wall Street, and corporations are going to start paying their fair share for supporting the United States of America. This is not because we resent success. We welcome success as long as you do it fairly and don't abuse people on the way up. But 90% of the income gains have gone to the wealthiest 1% in America. Our tax code is full of loopholes and special breaks that make it even worse. And what I really appreciate about Warren is he has said, and he has said it consistently, he should never be able to pay a lower tax rate than his secretary, and he is right. So I have said I'm going to follow Warren's example. Being successful doesn't have to come at the expense of others. He knows that real value comes from helping more people invest in themselves, their businesses, grow the economy. And so we're going to use him and his ideas about how we're going to tax the wealthy more as the real foundation of making the investments in America that will help everybody. Now, I'm told that Donald Trump stays glued to the TV set, so I hope he heard Warren. You know, there's always time for a conversion. Because while Warren is standing up for a fairer tax code, Trump wants to cut taxes for the super rich. Well, we're not going there, my friends. I'm telling you right now, we're going to write fairer rules for the middle class, and we are going to raise taxes on the middle class. And while we're at it, we would like to see those tax returns, wouldn't we? My husband and I have put out, I think, about 33 or 34 years worth, if you're interested. He doesn't even respect the American people enough to do what every other presidential candidate has done for decades and release them. It's time for Trump to stop hiding. It's time to stand up for working families. It's time to make clear that when the middle class thrives, America thrives, and that's what we're going to get back to doing. So, my friends, I will not rest until we get wages and incomes rising. I will not rest until we make it clear what's at stake in this election. And that's why I need your help. I want to throw into the challenge that Warren made. If this congressional district has the highest percentage of votes in any congressional district, and of course, if I win, here's what we'll do. I will, shortly after I become president, sometime as soon as I can arrange it, come back here, and Warren and I will dance in the streets of Omaha together. If we're really lucky, he'll wear his Elvis costume again. Please join this campaign. Text JOIN, J-O-I-N. Go to 47246. Go to HillaryClinton.com. And oh, by the way, we're hiring organizers in Nebraska. So let's have some fun. Let's register voters, let's turn people out, and let's win this election for America.